Welcome back to FreightWaves Now on this Thursday morning. Michael, Vincent, we talk a lot about technology here at FreightWaves.
Yeah,
every show, every day.
Yeah, of course.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about it with Steve Howard. He's the president of Esquire Express. Going to learn a little bit about how tech is helping LTL and kind of bridging the gap across our industry.
Yeah, I wish we had tech back in my day in LTL. We had no tech. We had tires and diesel. That was our technology.
That was our tech. Steve, welcome to FreightWaves Now. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So first things first, give us a little introduction about yourself, a little introduction about Esquire Express as well.
Sure. So I'm Steve Howard. I am based in Miami, Florida. I live in Miami, Florida. I started Esquire Express as a small package courier company back in 1990, right out of college. And in 1999, I opened up a e-commerce logistics business called Esquire Logistics to really capture what has now become more of a home delivery company specializing in e-commerce.
Excellent. So, Steve, tell us about the technology you employ and how important it is at this time. What you're doing there.
Well, so in the final mile field, there's a bunch of strong players. So depending on what your niche is, there's all kinds of software providers that really have integrated well with shippers. But what none of them ever wanted to do was to integrate amongst themselves, and more importantly, integrate with other verticals. So LTL, or really any other vertical. They felt like if they kept a captive audience within their own client base, you would never leave, which was very short-sighted, and really didn't offer much opportunity.
So the lack of collaboration that you're talking about kind of held back the development of better service and more efficiencies in technology, yeah?
Exactly. So as the 3PL world has exploded and the brokerage world has exploded, the one thing the customer always demands is visibility across from the minute they place that order to the minute it gets delivered to their home. And what they used to get 5 years ago was, it's been delivered. And they'd say, "What are you talking about? It hasn't been delivered." Well, what they were referring to was the LTL carrier or the full truckload carrier delivered it in market, and then it had to go from their terminal to my terminal, and then I had to schedule it. And so when they got that it's been delivered, it could be a full 4 or 5 days before they actually received the product, and it made them very unhappy.
Yeah, I remember those days. As soon as you got the appointment set with the consumer, right, and with that final, it was considered on time and your service was met, right? And oftentimes then it just out of sight, out of mind type of thing, right? And it could be a week before it was delivered, already showing on time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, so you've been in the game for about 30 years. Talk to us a little bit about the growth that you've seen over your time in logistics and transportation, and kind of how the last few years has really accelerated over that 3-decade span.
Yeah, so I mean the small package courier world was a great business for a long time, but technology changed that a lot. I mean, my company's name is Esquire Express. Back in the day, we did over 1,000 plus deliveries a day, all for lawyers, and that world has completely changed. So looking at the whole e-commerce business, we started back in 1999 with one client, IKEA, and IKEA was one of the forefront kind of online companies that took a catalog and actually put it online, and people could purchase online and get a final mile delivery. And that, so from there to where we're at today has been just a tremendous game changer. I mean, the whole open and inspect before you deliver, repair in your facility before it's delivered, the full customer expectation. I can tell you in 1999, those were not something that was on anybody's mind. It was really just, will people buy online? And if they do, how do we deliver it? Not even what the experience is or anything like that. So, and then technology. I mean, so especially in the last few years, where every retailer that wants to stay viable has got to have an e-commerce platform. They struggled with how and what technology is going to make it so the customer has this seamless experience. I order it today. When am I going to get it? How professional is that? So some technology companies came about 5 years ago from the SMC3 group. There was some people that broke off from there and created, a platform to bridge the gap. And and now it's awesome. I mean, my biggest clients are 3PLs who do. I'm sorry, are LTL carriers who don't want to do the final mile. It's not efficient for them. And their black eye has always been, or has traditionally been, the last few years, that 53 footer rolling down a residential suite. And here's grandma who just bought a kayak for her son, and the kayaks gets dropped off at the street. So we partnered up with a lot of the LTL carriers, and again, with the technology, now you can see it seamlessly throughout, all the way to the delivery to your house.
Yeah, excellent. Those are really good points. So when you're talking about, when I was in LTL, obviously exception management was a huge thing, right? And the exception management, Steve, was really get the customer to sign for it without making anything on the delivery receipt or the DR, right? don't let them put anything. And if they did, be very, very specific. And the holy grail was get them to write shrink wrap and tact. Shrink wrap and tact, you were clear of any type of claims. That obviously has changed because you've got to have that customer experience. So can you talk to that a little bit about what you're seeing there in that exception management and really the worst of it all, the return, right, of damaged goods?
Yeah. Well, so from an exception management standpoint, again, technology's helped a lot, right? So every piece that hits my warehouse is getting photographed and scanned in and scanned out. And so there's a photograph of it being put on the driver's truck. So now, and my business, like most businesses in this industry, we use owner operators to make the final mile delivery. So once it's on their truck, it's their responsibility, and they know that. So when they get to the home, before they ever walk into the customer's home, they take a picture. They take a picture of it at the customer's house with their door there, and take a picture of that box. So assuming everything's in good condition, if we go in, and in most cases now we're going in, we're opening the box, we're putting it in place, we're opening it, in many cases we're assembling it. So we make sure that the customer sees that it's in good condition. They mark that it's in good condition. Then we go in and open the box, and if it's concealed damage, we have no liability for that. That was a very tricky thing to teach drivers, because back in the old days when we first started, there was no quality control. I mean, the freight came to us stuffed in a 53-foot container or trailer coming out of LA, and there was no packaging, nothing. And so when you took it off the truck, 30 or 40% of it was clearly damaged. And the customer was, just get it delivered without exception. And if there is exception, get that signature and run.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, go before. Yeah, get them to sign it. Then, yeah.
So, Steve, sorry about that. Michael Vincent mentioned the kind of hassle with returns when it comes and when things really don't go as expected. Do you guys have any experience or any tips for when it comes to that customer does see that good and it is damaged and they want to send it back? Are you guys on that receiving end, or do you guys do any of the reverse logistics when it comes to that as well?
Yeah, we do an absolute ton of reverse logistics, not only the product that we deliver, but also product that we never delivered. So somebody else delivered it, but the customer experience, because in the world we live in today, the customer can accept it, and if they have whatever their time period is, 30 days to return it free of charge, because I didn't like the color, or I didn't, whatever you don't have to have a reason. So that's a huge component. We probably do upwards of 200 reverse logistics pickups a day.
Wow.
And that's not including pickups for, new product that's being put into the stream. This is returns. And as you can imagine, if a few years ago, that process was rough, because my warehouses just got stuffed with stuff that nobody had. But at least now there's some pretty good reverse logistics companies out there that I work with that, if it's on your dock, it should get off within a day or two. And that's real important to keeping commerce rolling. But, one of the tricky parts of my business is every client has their own requirements. Some clients say if it's damaged, you leave it. Some clients say if it's damaged, you have to take it. Some say call us as on an exception basis. So it's really tricky for that driver to make sure that he does the right thing every time, and we have to.
Yeah, it's you say one of the tricky parts, and I almost laughed out loud because there is no part of your business, your vertical, that's not tricky. I've been there, I lived that life. It's tough, and you've got so many different metrics, right? You're trying to do delivery service on time, but is not one of your main metrics as well as the customer experience? You get measured on that as well, right?
Yeah, it's unbelievable now. I mean, and look at it's a trend that's not going away. So, I'm the owner of the business. I have to be on calls with all my major clients every single week to go over my report card. How did I do this past week? And
Mm-hmm.
and they're measuring so many different things: client perception, scheduling, was a driver on time, and then here's the killer, right? So we do a lot of assembly. And, clients hold me to, being honest, which is I arrived at your destination. I have a window. If I go outside of that window because it took me 2 hours to assemble it or put it together or put it in its place, and now I'm 5 minutes out of my window, that's a fail. And I have to answer to
Yeah.
that. And
One of the other arguments, the other really aggravating things when I was in there as well, Steve, is you do everything perfect. The delivery goes perfect. You're on time. Everything. The customer just did not feel comfortable with that delivery person, and so they give you a bad score. That's one of the most aggravating things.
I'm in South Florida, so there's a language issue down here when you get outside of Miami, Fort Lauderdale, where people expect everybody to be proficient in English. And so, I have to be able to talk to all my drivers, but can they sit there and talk to the assembly level with a customer? Maybe not. And
Maybe not.
Like to your point, the customers say, well, everything was fine, but his English wasn't any good.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. We got to wrap it up. We're short on time. Wish we could keep talking longer, but thank you for joining us. Go check out his business at Esquire Express.